Welcome, wanderer of stories. You have stepped into echoed enigmas, where every tale holds a heartbeat, and every whisper hides a truth. If these are the stories you've been searching for, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a secret waiting to be told. Now, take a deep breath and let the echoes begin.
Lily stood before the panoramic window of her penthouse apartment, gazing down at the shimmering, gold-infused skyline of Santon, Johannesburg. Today was her wedding day, a spectacle of ivory lace and imported roses, marrying Tom, a man whose social standing promised everything her past had denied her. But the true masterpiece of the day was not the three-tiered cake or the diamond choker, it was the guest list. She had meticulously invited every single one of her significant ex-boyfriends. Not one, but three. Mark, her college sweetheart, who had abandoned her research project for a competitor's promise of quick cash. James, the slick finance broker who had leveraged her personal life to get ahead in the market, leaving her reputation in tatters. And Peter, the charming artist whose smooth words had masked a calculated plan to isolate her from her family's support. They were three very different betrayals woven into the tapestry of her life, and now they were all seated in the grand ballroom of the Saxon Hotel. Lily smiled, a predator's curve of the lip. Tom, her amiable fiancé, entered, adjusting his bespoke suit. "Darling, are you ready? Your exes are certainly causing a stir. Why did you insist on this?" "Closure, my love," she purred, turning to face him. "I need to prove that I've moved past them, that they mean nothing. Besides, I love a good performance, and today they are the audience, watching me win." She picked up her bouquet, the weight of the moment pressing down. It was time for the show to begin. She knew, however, that her three guests had not come to merely spectate. They had come to ensure her victory was anything but smooth. They intended to ruin her, just as she secretly intended to ruin them.
The Santon ballroom glittered, a hive of Johannesburg's elite dressed in designer fabrics, sipping French champagne. Lily's entrance was delayed just long enough to ensure maximum tension. From her concealed vantage point, she watched the three men take their seats in the front row, strategically placed opposite each other, near the aisle. She had dressed them in subtle but distinct psychological colors. Mark in a somber navy, signifying regret. James in a bold, almost aggressive charcoal, reflecting his corporate arrogance, and Peter in an ethereal beige linen, masking his serpentine nature. Mark, fidgeting with his tie, kept glancing at the altar with a look of genuine, if misplaced, sorrow. James looked bored, checking his expensive watch, clearly present only to maintain appearances, and possibly sabotage. Peter, however, was studying the room, a glint in his eye that suggested he knew more than he let on. He was the wild card, the one most likely to make a scene. Lily made a mental note to watch him closely. Her ultimate goal depended on one of them breaking first, not just with a declaration of love, but with a full, public display of malice. Tom waited patiently at the altar, a beacon of calm and sincerity. He was everything the others were not: stable, loyal, and incredibly trusting. A perfect pawn. The famous wedding match began, and Lily stepped into the light. The three exes simultaneously looked up, and the music seemed to shift, becoming a dramatic score for the unspoken war now being waged between the bride and her past. Lily glided toward Tom, her eyes locking onto Peter's. She offered a private, chilling smile, signaling that the rules of engagement had changed. The wedding was merely a stage.
The officiant reached the point of the ceremony where silence was required, the solemn moment before the exchange of vows. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and unspoken resentment. Tom's hand was warm and steady in Lily's, his devotion almost painful in its purity. Then, from the front row, a sound broke the stillness, the scraping of a chair being pushed back quickly. Mark, his face pale beneath the ballroom lights, stumbled to his feet. He was shaking, his navy suit suddenly looking too tight, trapping his raw emotion. "Stop!" Mark's voice cracked, echoing off the high, decorated ceilings. A collective gasp rippled through the guests, interrupting the elegant hush. "Lily, you can't do this. I know why you invited us. It's because you still feel the weight of what we had." He gestured wildly around the room. This is a mistake. He isn't me. He doesn't know you like I did. Remember the research, Lily? The late nights at Wits? I threw that away, but I can't let you throw this away too, for spite." James rolled his eyes dramatically, sinking lower in his chair, disgusted by the display of vulnerability. Peter, conversely, watched the scene with unnerving intensity, a thin smile playing on his lips, recognizing the perfect moment of disruption. Mark's unplanned outburst was exactly what Lily needed, the first fracture in the facade of civility. The seed of chaos was planted, but Mark's motivation was too simple, too focused on the past love. Lily needed more than sentiment. She needed actionable, public ruin. She kept her gaze fixed on Mark, giving him just enough attention to fuel his public breakdown, ensuring maximum visibility for the next more significant act of sabotage.
As Mark dissolved into incoherent pleas, James, unable to tolerate the social embarrassment, stood up and smoothly took control. James, the epitome of calculated control, pushed Mark aside with a contemptuous look. "Mark, sit down. You're embarrassing yourself, and the bride for that matter." James straightened his tie, addressing the room with the practiced ease of a man giving a quarterly earnings report. His tone was not emotional. It was clinical and damning. To answer the question about why Lily invited us, it wasn't for closure, and it certainly wasn't for love. She invited us to showcase her victory. But let me tell you what she's really doing. He paused for effect, letting the collective breath of the guests hang in the air. She's marrying Com to secure the seed funding for the very company she tried to launch 4 years ago, the one that failed after my farm's mismanagement. She's using Tom's connections, and Tom has no idea about the intellectual property she almost lost, the same IP that 3 of us here were directly involved in, one way or another. James's accusation was precise, targeting Lily's professional ambition rather than her heart. It was a cold splash of reality, far more damaging than Mark's emotional breakdown. He wasn't trying to win her back. He was trying to ruin her financial future and Tom's trust by painting her as a calculating opportunist. Lily watched James with faint admiration. His move was sharp, but still not the final piece of her puzzle. The intellectual property was the core, but the core needed a deeper, shared motive, a secret that tied all 4 men together in the eyes of the public. The guests were now murmuring openly, their shock giving way to delicious fascination. James's revelation had shifted the scene from a romantic tragedy to a corporate drama. Lily maintained a regal, unwavering expression, but inside she was waiting. James's move was a provocation. It was Peter's turn to deliver the true chaos. Peter stepped forward, pushing James aside with surprising force, his beige linen suit a stark contrast to his dark, triumphant gaze. He wasn't aiming for ruin, he was aiming for control. Lily, James is right about one thing. This is all about control. But he missed the real prize. The intellectual property Mark stole and James manipulated wasn't the only secret we shared. Tom. He addressed the bewildered groom directly. You need to understand the kind of woman you are marrying. She's not just a social climber. She's a blackmailer. Peter raised his voice, ensuring every ear in the room was listening. I know what happened the night her original business partner was forced out of Johannesburg. The threats, the forged documents, the destruction of evidence. I have copies of the original correspondence, Lily. And guess who helped you cover it up? The man who funded that initial failed venture. Tom's father. I can ruin you, Tom's family, and everyone else with a single call. Now, if you want me to keep quiet, the price is simple. The wedding is off, and you sign over a controlling share of your newly funded company to me. Right now. Peter produced a perfectly folded document from his jacket pocket, waving it like a flag of victory. His intention was clear. Complete takeover, using shared familial guilt as the weapon.
The scene froze. Peter's demand for the controlling share and the mention of Tom's father was the bomb Lily had been waiting for, confirming the extent of his calculated villainy. Peter believed he had won, that Lily's silence could be bought. But Lily finally moved, her calm breaking into a stunning, triumphant motion. She took the microphone from the bewildered officiant, her voice ringing out, clear and amplified over the stunned silence. You're right, Peter. It is about the forced resignation of my partner, Daniel. And you're right, Mark, James, and Tom's father were involved. She smiled, not a predator smile, but a judge's. But you all have one thing wrong. You think that was my crime. That was your collective crime against Daniel. The shocking thing you did to me wasn't about broken hearts or stolen love. It was this. Lily clicked a small silver device concealed in her bouquet. Suddenly, the elegant stage backdrop vanished, replaced by a massive, high-definition projection screen. The screen lit up with documents, not Peter's forged documents, but authenticated screenshots of an email chain revealing Mark, James, Peter, and Tom's father conspiring to systematically destroy Lily's original startup and frame Daniel for fraud. The headline on the screen read, Evidence of Fraud and Conspiracy, Johannesburg Tech Scandal. The scandal was not about the current wedding. It was about the ruin they had orchestrated against her years prior. The shock was the immediate, unedited public display of their collective guilt.
The elegant ballroom descended into outright pandemonium. James desperately tried to shield his face, realizing the career-ending implications of the displayed evidence. Mark sunk into his chair, his regret now turning into terrified panic. Peter, momentarily stunned, recovered quickly and lunged for the microphone, shouting, "This is forged! She's lying!" But Lily was ready for him. The plot twist was about to unfold, involving the most crucial person in the room, Tom, the groom. Lily held up her hand, silencing Peter with a look that was pure steel. No, Peter, not forged. And this entire wedding, it wasn't about marrying Tom, although I do love him dearly. She turned to her groom, who, instead of looking betrayed or shocked, offered her a supportive, knowing smile. The guests gasped, realizing Tom was in on the ruse. Tom and I have been partners in this for 6 months. After you three ruined me and Daniel, Tom was the one who helped me rebuild. He used his connections, not his father's, to investigate. We needed a place, a moment, and an audience to get you three in the same room, under oath, and in a state of high stress to ensure you would publicly incriminate yourselves without warning. Tom then stepped forward, addressing Peter. My father is not here today because he is already cooperating with the authorities. I discovered his involvement when I helped Lily access the final pieces of evidence you tried to conceal. The wedding was merely the lockbox to trap the final 3 conspirators.
Peter, Mark, and James looked around, their escape routes blocked by the sheer number of stand and now whispering socialites. The digital evidence, live-streamed to a private server, was indisputable. Lily's ultimate goal was not reconciliation or a new husband's wealth. It was to use the spotlight she once craved to finally expose the truth and achieve public, irreversible justice against the men who had collectively stolen her future. The title's promise was fulfilled. The shocking thing they did to her was providing the exact high-profile venue and the perfect emotional catalysts for their own takedown. Lily reached for Tom's hand, a genuine, loving smile replacing her mask of manipulation. Now, as for the wedding, she announced to the room, causing the remaining guests to lean in eagerly. The ceremony is complete. The vows were already exchanged last week in a small, private affair. Today was merely the reception, a reception designed to catch the 3 people who systematically destroyed my intellectual property and my partner's career. Security guards, whom Lily had cleverly disguised as part of the catering staff, quietly moved to stand beside Mark, James, and Peter. Lily's eyes were clear, victorious. Gentlemen, your time as my guests is over. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. She kissed Tom, a gesture of profound partnership, as the 3 ex-boyfriends were escorted out in utter disgrace, their expensive suits doing nothing to hide their ruined reputations. Lily had not just survived their betrayals, she had used the wedding itself as the ultimate scandalous trap, turning her past into the instrument of her glorious future.
It is said that a seed of betrayal will always seek the sun, no matter how deeply it is buried. From Lily's grand stage in Johannesburg, we learn that resilience is not the ability to forget the wound, but the courage to use the very instrument of your hurt to build a fortress of truth. Let this be the wisdom carried in your heart. The best revenge is never bitterness. It is crafting a destiny so clear, so powerful, that your light alone illuminates the shadow of the wicked. Guard your heart, but sharpen your mind, for justice often wears the gown of a new beginning.
And so another echo fades into silence. For now. What truth did this story whisper to your heart? Share it with us in the comments below, for your words are what keep these echoes alive. If you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell. Let your heart be ready, for the next secret we uncover is never far away. This has been Echoed Enigmas, where every ending is simply a new beginning.